Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the Celtics Talk radio video chat here on YouTube.com. As usual, I'm your co-host Daniel Camacho alongside Igor here with me. We have just one game left in the regular season for the Boston Celtics, ladies and gentlemen, before the NBA playoffs begin. The Celtics will play that final game tomorrow afternoon at 12 p.m. noon Eastern Time when they take on the Washington Wizards. The Celtics right now have basically locked up the 3 seed, as we discussed in our previous video chat, and for the most part everything in the Eastern Conference has pretty much been set up and locked into place. We now know that the number 1 seeded Milwaukee Bucks will take on the number 8 seeded Orlando Magic. The number 2 seeded Toronto Raptors will take on the number 7 seeded Brooklyn Nets. The Celtics are looking like they're on a collision course as the number 3 seed with the number 6 seeded Philadelphia 76ers. That matchup could be locked in as early as basically during this video chat, Igor. Right now, the Indiana Pacers are taking on the Houston Rockets. If the Indiana Pacers manage to win that game against the Houston Rockets, it will be the Celtics and the 76ers in the 3-6 matchup, while the Pacers will take on the Miami Heat in the 4-5 matchup. If the Rockets manage to knock off the Pacers, then the 76ers later on tonight will take on the Toronto Raptors, in this case in about just under an hour in this case for that game to start. So if the Pacers lose to the Rockets, then the 76ers will face the Raptors. If the 76ers lose that game, it locks up the Celtics and the 76ers in round 1. If the 76ers win that game with the Pacers losing to the Rockets, then we go down to Friday with the determining factor having to be whether or not the Pacers win that day or the 76ers win that day, or whether or not they lose. Again, the same scenarios basically as today. So, Igor, it's looking like we pretty much have a collision course with the 76ers. It's been news broke within the last few days, obviously, that the 76ers have lost Ben Simmons for the rest of the season, even though the 76ers have not confirmed that. But that's what's being reported from the news outlets. So the matchup may have just gotten a little bit more easier for the Boston Celtics.
And Embiid is hurt. Embiid is hurt also.
That's another thing. Embiid has been missing the last few games, resting. And so that might be another advantage for the Boston Celtics if they get the 76ers. So the Celtics have recently, Igor, over the last few games, they ended up taking on, as you recall in our last video chat, we were discussing the game against the Toronto Raptors in the potential second round matchup. As of course, if they win the first round, they would have to face the winner of the second seed versus 7 seed matchup. They took on the Raptors and pretty much did a number on them. You know, it wasn't like they beat them by 40 or 50, but they basically took command of that game and literally showed Toronto that that basically, after what we saw in the regular season prior to the COVID-19, this Celtic team was not going to be as easy to beat as they were in the regular season prior to COVID-19. It seemed like prior to COVID-19, Toronto had the edge in this case, but this time around, it was a totally different story. The Celtics, ladies and gentlemen, this past Friday, August 7th, they were victorious 122-100, with Jaylen Brown being your high scorer, scoring 20 points in that game. And then 2 nights later, Sunday, August 9th, the Celtics were victorious over the Orlando Magic, 122-119. That game, however, went into overtime. Gordon Hayward had ended up being the high scorer with 31 points. And then just yesterday, Tuesday, August 11th, the Celtics ended up putting a damper on the Memphis Grizzlies' chances to make the NBA playoffs with a 122-107 victory. So, again, tomorrow is your last game. We now know that pretty much the entire starting 5, Igor, as well as Marcus Smart, will all sit tomorrow's regular season finale. So we are going to see basically the bench and I guess you can say the very end, the third unit, all play tomorrow night, which if you recall, I called for that after yesterday's game. I put that up in our group saying that was something Brad Stevens should do because of the fact that you and me mentioned it in our last show, the potential of Gordon Hayward leaving the team to be with his wife for the birth of their child.
Right.
If Gordon Hayward is leaving, you need somebody else to get into a groove to take over the scoring role off the bench because, of course, the guy who's doing that is Marcus Smart. So tomorrow could be a critical game. Even if you don't win it, it could be critical to allow some of these guys like Tremont Waters, and a few others to basically get on a roll and basically get themselves into a groove to help basically have their offense flowing as we start the playoffs. So the playoffs could very well basically start on Saturday or Sunday. In all likelihood, we'll have our show Saturday night as we will give you the playoff preview, obviously, and the schedule breakdown. But Igor, other than that, the other news that just came out within the last hour, we have the Celtics announcing they have given Brad Stevens a contract extension for the head coaching position. The team has not announced whether, in terms of how long it's going to be or how much money. So we're going to be snooping around for that information just like all the insiders do. But that's another big story that I know you want to touch on in this case, as well as any other injury updates. So let's get into it. Igor, what's your thoughts on everything we just had to report?
First, let's start. Kudos to you, Daniel, for doing the last couple of games, the last 3 games, which they are pretty much meaningless, and you did good job. Meaningless in result sense because we already have been locked for position number 3, okay, before last couple of games, if I'm correct. So we cannot move up, we cannot move down. Of course, those games are preparational games for the playoffs, and it was the good opportunity for the young players that didn't play in the first 3 or 4 games to prove themselves, to prove to the coach and to the Celtics management and the fans that they are ready for the playoff minutes and that they have been neglected without sense, like Robert Williams. And this is the good sign. Now I want to comment overall picture, and I know that Daniel, the Celtics fans will say that this is not regular 82 games season, but this is the NBA season, and the teams will play 70 games or so. What is exactly the number of the games that the Celtics will play, Daniel? 70 or something, right? So we will miss like 8 or 10 games from the full season, if I'm correct. Is that right? So what I'm trying to say,
it would be 10 exactly if you after tomorrow's game. So 72 out of 82.
Okay. So we missed 10 games. Now I make a post, and I will remind our viewers, and I will remind you, Daniel, what we said October. I'm not prizing ourselves. I'm just analyzing. What did we say for the season prognosis? It was number 1, Milwaukee, without a shadow of a doubt, right? Number 2, we said Philadelphia. Number 3, that those were like power rankings of ours, okay? Number 3, Boston Celtics. Number 4 we said Toronto Raptors. Number 5, Miami. Number 6, Indiana. What happened? it happened that we missed positions number 2 and 4. Philadelphia 76ers played horrible season, and they are like number 6. Okay, so we missed on that. They underachieved. We didn't miss, but they underachieved. On the other side, we missed Toronto Raptors. They overachieved. They were projected to be like number 4, and they're number 2, and they're probably the best team in the bubble, despite the loss from Boston Celtics. Confirmation for my words, the Celtics fans will say, well, you know that the Celtics are better than the Raptors. Well, on the last ESPN Power Rankings that are posted from Tim Bontemps, who is an ESPN writer and who is following the Celtics. On the last Power Rankings, the Celtics were like 7th and Raptors are rising. I mean number 2 or something. And everybody from the Celtics fans reacted like this is not deserved. The Celtics proved that they're better than the Raptors. I agree. I just want to make a note to you. I know that you know that stuff that I'm going to say, Daniel, but the Celtics fans do not realize, or they do not want to understand or to realize reality. What I'm trying to say about the power rankings. Now, one fan noted me the picture of CBC Sports or something, and on that site, Boston Celtics are ranked number 2 on their chart. What does that mean? I responded to him, and I want to explain. First of all, you have kind of official and unofficial NBA charts. The TV stations that are covering NBA, and especially ESPN, TNT, NBA site, ABC, those charts you should take serious. Why? Because from those charts you will learn, you will have the learning experience if you are the Celtics fan, and this is something that the Celtics fans do not understand, and they do not want to go there. They do not want to understand what outside NBA world, outside of the Celtics fans, what do they think about the Celtics? And especially what NBA thinks its organization about the Celtics. Well, you will learn about it if you watch those charts. How you should read those charts. That order of teams means what type of officiating you will have in the playoffs. In other words, what do they want in the playoffs? And if you do not understand that those local charts posted by Boston medias or other local medias, they are pretty much useless. Just like when you and I, Daniel, for example, when you and I post power rankings, it means to us, it means to the fans that are reading it, but practically in grand scheme of things, our own charts, your and mine, that I just said, what we said October, okay? Milwaukee, then Philadelphia, Boston, etc. Toronto, Miami, Indiana. That chart doesn't mean one single thing in the grand scheme of things. Do you know what I mean? And on the other side, those charts from NBA site, ESPN, TNT, they mean everything. And if you do not understand this, you're idiot. Excuse me for my language, but I cannot describe the other way. Now, returning to my point about the final order after bubble. Somebody wrote me, Daniel, that Boston Celtics would be 56 or 57 wins team if we had 10 more games. I disagree. Steve Kolonsky and I, our friend, we discussed, and I said, if you recall, Daniel, the border for full season 82 games, the border was 49 games, 49.4 games, something like that. And remember then you and I said over, but something between 50 and 52 games. And I think that this is the right number for 82 full season, okay? Now, why do the Celtics fans overrate this Celtics team, and they think that we would be 57, 60 wins team? Well, based on the bubble, those 5 wins, of course. But they forgot, like you said, Daniel, before the season was shut down in March. We were in bad form. We had troubles with injuries. We were not in sync. We had numerous problems. We had injuries. And if we are playing in vacuum, where everybody is healthy, where everything is okay, where officiating is okay, where chemistry is okay, where we do not have suspension, where everything is just like in fairy tales, we would have 60 wins. But the thing is, NBA games, they have not been played in Wonderland, Daniel. They are played in real life. And you have 100 factors during the 82 game season that is going to decide the final number of your wins. And I mentioned some of them, okay? So, injuries, chemistry, suspensions, bad form, etc. Based on everything that I said and we saw before the bubble games, the Celtics would finish like 52 games, I would say, wins. Why Philadelphia underachieved, I will not go there, I don't care. But I will mention that they had injuries, they had intern problems, chemistry problems, and because of the injuries, they are tough matchups for us. If they are healthy, I would not want Philadelphia like I mentioned. But right now, they are banged up, and they are. I prefer Philadelphia before Indiana for our matchup. Okay, because without Ben Simmons, like big ringers Kevin O'Connor mentioned, Philadelphia is done without Ben Simmons. They are not going to reach the NBA Finals without Ben Simmons, and they are first round exit team without Ben Simmons. Okay, especially with Embiid being hurt. Before we continue with further analysis of the last 4 games in the bubble. You mentioned one more thing, that is Brad Stevens' contract extension. A reminder for our listeners that Brad Stevens, let me just find that information that I posted for our, listeners, readers in the page, Woodland Green Celtics Fans Forum. The Celtics signed Stevens to 6-year contract, $22 million, when they hired him as development coach, rebuilding coach, in 2013. The Celtics gave Stevens 3-year extension in 2016, which means probably, Daniel, that the Stevens, his contract is lasting until 2022 year, 2 more years from now, okay? 2 more seasons, not counting this season. How long after the second extension, how long his contract will last, yet to be seen and to be determined. I will not read the final press statement from Vic Grausbeck and the staff, and you can read it on Boston Celtics site, or if you do not have Boston Celtics site, at our page, which is Woodland Green Celtics Fans Forum. But what I want to say, Daniel, about Brad Stevens, I'm stunned. I didn't see this coming. I don't know exactly what happened with Stevens and the Celtics to force Vic Grausbeck and Steven Paluca to extend Brad Stevens right now. About this extension, you know my feelings, and I will just tell them my opinion is not popular opinion, because, again, I will say this way. After comments under Chad Finn's post, and Chad Finn is a great writer, some of the people, I think that even journalists, they wrote that Brad Stevens have reached Bill Belichick territory. Now, personally, I took that comparison as insult for Bill Belichick. I am huge fan of Bill Belichick. He's my favorite football coach of all the times. And I think that this is insult to Bill Belichick. Imagine if you're Bill Belichick, and imagine if you are reading this comment, Brad Stevens have reached Bill Belichick territory. I think that Bill Belichick would bang his head on the wall reading that. I will ask those Celtics fans, what did Brad Stevens do? Maybe we don't know something, Daniel. Maybe we are missing some kind of information about Brad Stevens' life achievement thus far. And I really wish that the Celtics fans send us concrete information. What did he do to deserve to be treated as Bill Belichick, who is 5 or 6 times NBA champion, NFL champion, football league champion. I thought that we're Boston Celtics, the Boston Celtics. I thought that, in my opinion, the criteria to give my coach, as Boston Celtics fan, my criteria to give the coach extension is at least this coach to get to the NBA Finals. Now, Brad Stevens have reached the two Eastern Conference finals. All credit to him. We were rebuilding. The first 4 years, linear progress, obvious. But last year, Daniel, for me, it was real revelation about Brad Stevens as a coach, and not pleasant surprise. He proved that he cannot coach the team that is contending team, and this Celtics team, ladies and gentlemen, I repeat and underline, despite all the hype that you can read in media and among the Celtics fans, this team, Daniel, is underdogs. And that is why they play so good. Because they are underdogs. And Stevens is overachieving with every single underdog team. That is his nature. But when he receives the pure talent that can reach the NBA Finals, he just fails to the task to lead the contending team. And this is my biggest problem with the Stevens. My other problem is his fixation with a small ball and small size on his team. Listen, this is not baseball, this is not tennis, this is basketball. The size matters. The size will always matter. The best players will always be in the NBA 50 years from now, the big man that can run like point guards, that can run the transition, they have the good ball handling and the jump shoot and the skills. The big man with the skills will always be the best players in the NBA 50 years from now. Small ball was fashioned during Golden State Warriors team and their ruling. Now this is over, and we still are running small ball. This is driving me crazy, Daniel. And another thing, Brad Stevens is experimental with rotations during regular season. This is driving me nuts, and I think that he is running the team like the college team, playing too many players in the playoffs. He cannot decide to play 7 or 8 players. I mean, he's playing like 10, 11 players in the playoffs. This is not acceptable for me. But other than that, Stevens did the great job as rebuilding coach, and I underline, rebuilding coach. He developed the young guys. Evan Turner got the new contract from the Celtics. Baines, Morris, I mean, the players that have been developed by Stevens, they progressed. I understand that. I'm giving him credit for that. But until he proves that he's the winning coach, I'm not buying Brad Stevens as the Celtics lifelong coach. What do you say?
Well, I don't have an issue with the team actually re-signing Brad Stevens, mainly because you got to look at the coaches that are currently out there in the NBA. You can say, other than Greg Popovich and maybe Doc Rivers, who really can we say we would take over him? You know, in terms of the ability to really, you know, have the, you know, have the brain power to really do certain things and get creative. You know, yeah, you shouldn't be paying him and giving him the same rewards. Let's say, obviously, we don't know what type of contract he's gotten yet in terms of money and years. So you damn sure shouldn't be giving him the same type of contract that, let's say, Greg Popovich would be getting from the Spurs, because that man has basically proven he deserves it in this case, you know. But you damn sure can't be thinking that you're going to get rid of Brad Stevens and take somebody who hasn't made the playoffs at all.
No, Daniel, I didn't say that the Celtics should get rid of Stevens. I'm stunned why this happened right now, and I'm disgusted with the treatment from the Celtics local medias and the fans, like Brad Stevens is Bill Belichick. He's not.
Yeah, well, that's, like I said, I have no problem with the signing, but when it comes to that part of it, Igor, that's where you and me are in agreement. Ladies and gentlemen, come on. Brad Stevens has been here. Okay, him, Bruce Cassidy, and Bill Belichick are now the ones that have been here the longest because obviously the Red Sox, they got a new manager. But ain't no one in this situation. I don't give a crap whether you want to say Tom Brady is more responsible for the dynasty we had, and the dominance the Patriots have had over the last 2 decades with the Patriots, and so that's why you downplay Belichick's, you downplay basically the things he should.
Influence, but we will see that in the next year, don't we?
Yeah, but like you said, you can downplay his influence because you want to give all the credit to Brady or not. But in this case, think about it, Igor. The team that you had in Brad Stevens that was basically the most star-loaded ended up doing the worst. That was last season, ladies and gentlemen. That team was a team that, talent-wise, should have been walking away with an NBA championship or at least a trip to an NBA Finals. And what happened? Brad Stevens couldn't even get the guys to get on the same page and basically work together. You know for a damn fact, if that's Greg Popovich, that doesn't happen. If that's Doc Rivers, Igor, that doesn't happen. So, like I said, I got no problem with Brad Stevens staying because, there's not too many coaches out there better than he is. But you can't be comparing him to someone like Bill Belichick in this case, knowing that Belichick is one of the most historic coaches in all of sports. Come on. To compare somebody in the NFL to Bill Belichick is to compare somebody in the NBA to like Red Auerbach. Literally.
Yeah.
Are all of you people ready to compare Brad Stevens to Red Auerbach?
Yeah, they are doing that. I saw the graphic. They say like he'll one day catch Red Auerbach in number of wins. It makes my head explode.
Well, again, all right. You want to have faith like that and say, okay, he's gonna catch him. That's one thing. But come on, you can't be saying, he's as good as Red Auerbach because he hasn't won a single championship yet. Hell, you haven't even made it to the finals yet, and Red Auerbach made it how many times? And yet you want to say he's as good as Red Auerbach? Nah, I don't think even Brad Stevens himself was fair to give him that credit.
10 titles in 11 years, Red Auerbach. I mean, come on.
So, like I said, that once again, unfortunately, like you say, that's what we see. Celtic fans, all Boston sports fans, pretty much are loyal to a fault. It's only fans that are like you and me that basically have no choice but to be neutral because you and me are radio show hosts. So obviously, if we're not neutral, then who the hell is really going to want to listen to us? As simple as that. If we're not,
right.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's the truth. Whether you're watching us right now on YouTube or you're listening to us on our radio shows, every week or so, for a fact if basically we do nothing but cry every time the Celtics basically lose and try to say we lost because the officials screwed us or, the other team did something illegal, you're not going to want to listen to us because basically we give our team a pass every time. We have to be realistic, basically, and be willing to call out our team when they screw up. In this case, same thing applies when it comes to being a New England Patriot fan. Same thing applies when it comes to being a Boston Bruin fan. Same thing applies when it comes to being a Red Sox fan. If you want to be a true sports fan, be willing to basically criticize your team the same way you would criticize all the other teams you don't stand when they screw up. In this case, don't be a homer, especially if you're going to be one that's going to be involved with analyzing games and being a radio host like the two of us are. So, like I said, Igor, you and me will live with it because Brad Stevens, ultimately, that's one thing you and me have said. when he gets a real superstar. He failed the first experiment. Let's just say it like that, ladies and gentlemen. It's the truth. He failed the first experiment when it came to having stars or superstars with the
Let us see the next time.
Exactly.
We will judge Brad Stevens the next time when he has the true contending team.
Exactly.
And again, the Celtics fans, because they are watching the NBA from green glasses, you know, with green glasses on the eyes. They have their key problem is to realize who is a superstar, who is not, and who is contending team and who is not, you know, and that kind of stuff. But I mean, when the next time, not to go further, the next time when Brad Stevens has the talent to win the Eastern Conference, and when he fails, then he will have no defense at all for his achievement, right?
Exactly. That's what we're basically saying. Last year, you all basically blamed it on the players, specifically as we've said all season. You blamed it on Kyrie, you blamed it on Horford, you blamed it on Baines, you blamed it on Morris. Didn't want to put no blame on the guys we have right now or on the coaching. Well, let's see what happens. Whether it's someone like Giannis Antetokounmpo or another big-time name that finally comes to Boston, whether it's free agency or Danny Ainge basically, pulls another rabbit out of the hat and gets a big-time player to come via trade. At that point, you ain't got no excuse. And at that point, if you still can't bring a championship home, are you still going to say, oh, it's the players, not the coaching in this case? Or it's the guys who ditched the team, not the ones that stood?
Everybody else outside of Boston, it's their fault, you know. You can blame the officials, you can blame NBA League, you can blame Adam Silver, you can blame Illuminatis, you can blame the Martians, you can blame aliens, you can blame Alf, but you must not blame Brad Stevens, Danny Ainge, and the players, especially Tatum and Brown, because the Celtics fans will kill you if you say that you doubt that Tatum and Brown will lead us to the title. It's themselves,
and again,
right?
Yeah, and again, Igor, pressure will be mounting. Think about it. If everybody, including this morning, as of this morning, Igor, if you're someone that watched ESPN First Take this morning, Stephen A. Smith again basically made it clear. If the Milwaukee Bucks don't make it to the NBA Finals this year or even win it, there's a pretty good chance Giannis Antetokounmpo is going to leave the Milwaukee Bucks. Now, I'm not saying he's coming to Boston, but let's say Giannis does leave and he walks away to the Western Conference in this case. Well, ladies and gentlemen, Milwaukee is no longer a threat to you. So now you're down to what? The 76ers with Ben Simmons and who can't stay healthy in this case, and who you all say Tatum is better. The Toronto Raptors, who we all know, other than Kawhi Leonard, has basically guys on the up-and-coming superstars who are basically in the same position you are, up-and-coming superstars. At that point next season, if Giannis is gone, you are the team that should be the one dominating the conference next season. Meaning, if you don't win no championship next season, you failed at that point. So if Giannis leaves the conference, Igor, the pressure just went way up on this Boston team and on their fans, meaning you got no excuse. You and me said there's no excuse this season not to get at least to the conference finals.
Conference finals, right.
If Giannis and them don't win it all, and Giannis chooses to say, screw you, I'm out of here to the Bucks, and he leaves to the Western Conference, well, next year, you gotta win it. You gotta at least get to the NBA Finals. And if you don't do that, once again, you failed. And at that point, I just gotta say to the people, how long is it gonna be before these guys hit that level to basically win it all?
They're saying like 5 or 6 years, but again, Daniel, I will repeat, I strongly hope this will not happen. There is a real danger that the Lakers win the championship this season and tie with us in number of titles. for me, this means everything. The titles, and Boston Celtics to be the best team in the NBA, historically, I'm speaking historically, of all the times. So, I really hope that the people will not make excuses, especially if Lakers surpass us in number of titles the next 5 years, like you and me say, you know. I really hope that they will not blame officials, NBA League, Martians, and Illuminati or somebody else, because Boston has chosen its path. Nobody forced Boston and its fans to choose this particular path with Tatum, Brown, Smart, and the others. We have chosen the path, and we must face the consequences. Maybe this is the right path, maybe we will be the dynasty. I highly doubt about it, as long as, and you mentioned Daniel, Giannis Antetokounmpo. I will slightly disagree with you, because you're forgetting, you probably know that, but you didn't mention the Nets the next year. I mean, we don't know what will happen with the next year. We don't know if Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving will decide to take another year off to go surf. But if Nets are complete, they are a better team with Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, you know, and they are deep. Playoff team without Kyrie Irving and Kevin. Now imagine this: if we don't have Tatum and Brown this year, would we be the playoff team? Maybe so, but I highly we will not be, because we are not deep enough. And the Nets, they are 7 without the 2 superstars. Now, the next year, if Giannis stays, then I think that the Nets will be candidates for top 3 teams, especially second seed there, you know, because I mean, listen, as long as Giannis, I have been explaining that to the people that do not want to understand. They mentioned that Tatum is better than Giannis. Maybe Tatum will be better than Giannis. Is the face of the NBA, people. Giannis is the face of the NBA. And, I mean, as long as Giannis is there, I'm afraid, Daniel, that he will be the brick wall that the Celtics will hit on the Eastern Conference. Similar to LeBron James. Remember that we could not win against LeBron James since 2011, 2019. So I'm afraid that Giannis is that type of player. About Giannis, the NBA is suspending Giannis Antetokounmpo for the Bucks final seeding game on Thursday for head bump on Wizards Mo Wagner. Sources told ESPN. Why this is important? When you watch this, maybe you will know the outcome, you know, of that Memphis pick and that kind of stuff. This suspension, Daniel, is having influence, implications for Phoenix and Portland, and in smaller amounts on first round pick that Boston owns from Grizzlies with the top 6 protection this year, and this pick would be unprotected in 2021. Memphis missing the playoffs would at least put that unprotected scenario in play in for Boston Celtics. But Giannis will be ready for the playoffs. Do not count on Giannis being out. That has been said. Daniel, what do you have something to say about? I mentioned Nets. The Nets will be on the playoffs the next year. Also, we don't know how Indiana is tough. Indiana is Miami. They will look for another star. Depot will be healthier. And the next year, Daniel, East will be harder for Boston Celtics. It will not be easier. Most likely.
Well, again, technically, Igor, unfortunately, we're dealing with many fans who don't want to take Brooklyn seriously because it has Kyrie Irving. So you and me don't even have to bring up the Brooklyn Nets because many of these fans don't even take them seriously. You and me do because we know they got Kevin Durant. As simple as that in this case. Kyrie, when he was with us, he was the top dog in this case. There, he's not Batman, he's Robin. As simple as that in this situation. You know, just like he was Robin in this case to LeBron being Batman in Cleveland, and we all saw what he was capable of. So as much as you may hate Kyrie, y'all people better start remembering what he did in Cleveland and start realizing Brooklyn is going to be a threat. Now, again, Giannis leaves Milwaukee, Igor, you never know. If he leaves, like I said, if he leaves to the Western Conference, you know, then obviously he doesn't go to Miami, so Miami is probably not going to get anyone at this point because Giannis is the biggest name. This year's free agency market's really not going to have many big names whatsoever. You know, maybe some of the smaller guys in terms of, you know, stars, but not superstars, it'll be big. But Miami, not going to be much. Indiana is not going to have much change because really, who's looking to go over there? You know, in this situation, who's looking to play for the Indiana Pacers? Really, you know, they're in a situation where all their best players are having to either be traded or having to be basically like us, brought from the draft and built up. So that's not something to really be worried about. Same thing with the Toronto Raptors. So Brooklyn and then maybe the Philadelphia 76ers at that point. But like I said,
I mean, listen, I'm starting to giving up on Philadelphia because it seems like they will never be healthy. But look at the Pacers. They're surprised. Look them in the bubble. And I'm not saying that they will be like the Force anytime soon, but they are tough. Oladipo is not 100% ready. They have T.J. Warren, who is top 5 scorers in the bubble. You can argue, is he the best player or not? They have Malcolm Brogdon, who is the missing piece, by the way, in my opinion, for Milwaukee. It will cost them probably winning the title with Giannis this year, losing Malcolm Brogdon. They have Oladipo, like I said, they have Turner, they have Domantas Sabonis, Bird, and the guys, they always draft well. And Nate McMillan, I love his style of coaching. You ask me which kind of coach I would like to have. Nate McMillan. He is the old type of guy. They have, what is his name? Veteran from Philadelphia at power forward. Not Turner, but, I will remember. That is always playing good, against us. In other words, Daniel, they are not contenders. They are a young team, they are a developing team, but they are upcoming team. They established T.J. Warren from Phoenix Suns. Okay, he came from Phoenix Suns, and he is starting right now only because Oladipo was hurt, and he used his chance. And right now he is the main guy in Indiana. Okay, and I have watched this guy, and I could not believe what I'm watching, Daniel, because this man is looking like Michael Jordan from, the best days, or Kobe Bryant, or whomever you can imagine. He's scoring the tough shots, and he's scoring 30 plus points per game. So, all I'm saying, and they are long, they are tall, they are physical, they all play defense. Thaddeus Young, power forward is Thaddeus Young. They are tough, they are strong. Somebody mentioned from national TV, Charles Barkley or somebody else, Daniel. They are tough to beat in Indianapolis. In Indianapolis, if you go there with the mindset, I'm going to win, it is going to be easy. You're going to lose. Okay? They are not maybe going to beat you in Boston, but in Indianapolis to defeat Indiana, this constructed, you will have to give 110% of your strength. And they're only going to get better. I'm telling young and upcoming team. And look from this perspective, not superstars perspective, the middle tier teams. Miami. Miami is having superstar that we don't. Jimmy Butler. I hate Jimmy Butler, but Daniel, whenever he steps on the floor, Jimmy Butler is getting 20 free throws per game in the playoffs. Remember? Those are secure points. Miami also is having Dragic, who torched us, who is veteran, left-handed, and he can score 20 points per game anytime he's top 3 scorers. They have, Daniel, one of the best shooters, and my favorite player there is Duncan Robinson, their shooting guard. And they have the 3 picks that I specifically like, and I said that October. I'm not smart after the season is over. I said that I love Kendrick Nunn, Duncan Robertson, and who was the third? I will remember. Tyler Hero from the bench. Those guys can ball. They were undrafted. 2 of them were undrafted picks. That means that Pat Riley can draft. He can develop talents. Okay? So, Miami is, they have experienced players. They have Bam Adebayo. Listen, Bam Adebayo is a star. At least, I know that the Celtics fans will not agree with me. He's an all-star. And he's at least at the same level with Jason Tatum right now. You see how much credit he's having with the officials. So, they have experienced guys, they have young guys, and they have role players. Miami, they have our Kelly Olynyk. Kelly Olynyk is good. Kelly Olynyk is good role player, right? I wish that we have Kelly Olynyk now, but never mind. So, they miss a couple of pieces to be contenders, but they will be better. Philadelphia, I don't know what will happen to them because of injuries, and we will see. Indiana will be better, Miami will be better, Nets will be better, Toronto, they will be better, they are a cohesive unit. Milwaukee depends on Giannis, Boston will be better, but in other words, Eastern Conference the next year will be fun to watch, Daniel, I'm not trying to disagree with you, but it will not be walk in the park. The Celtics do not have a specific superstar to divide them from that bunch. You and I talked. You have the pool of teams in the middle ground, and the Celtics are there in the Eastern Conference. And if Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving returns, Daniel, Nets will be immediately number 2 or 3 at the East. Okay? The Celtics fans do not agree with us. I don't care. You will see the next year. And then you will have like Milwaukee, you will have Toronto, you will have Nets. And then you will have the second year the pool of Indiana, of Boston, of Miami, of Philadelphia. There, the Boston will be there in the second pool. And they will fight to be in the top 4 teams, the true contenders, in my view. What do you say?
Well, I'm just simply saying that if you take the words of the Celtic fans all together in this situation, then technically next season we would be the ones at the top. As simple as that.
Right.
You know,
right.
To me, if Brooklyn does get Kyrie and Kevin Durant next year and they're basically, you know, back to being 100% healthy, they'll be the team to beat. Up there with the Bucks, of course, if Giannis manages to stay in this case. And then after that will come everybody else with the Celtics, the Raptors, and the Bucks being the next tier below. But if you're a Celtic fan that's been saying Boston basically is the best team in the Eastern Conference this year, well, the next year it's going to be this. It should be the same thing. There shouldn't be any issue, especially if you're also a Celtic fan that said Kyrie Irving and the team last year is not as good as this year's team. So you and me, Igor, we're in agreement that next year again it's gonna be much more competitive because Brooklyn now will be in the mix in this case. Obviously, you don't know what will happen.
No, the next year. Sorry for interrupting you. The next year will be key year for this team. Not this year. This year it's easy. Why it's easy? Because we had interruption of 3 months, and this is the bubble. Everybody plays from zero. It's not regular 82 games. It's the new system. It's easy to play this way, okay? For Boston and everybody else. But the next year, it will be regular season, the tougher competition, and then we will see is Boston and Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Marcus Smart, they will be 1 year older, okay? So those fans of Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, they will not have the argument of saying they are young, they need more. Tell me, how many contracts do they need not to be young? They are in their second contracts. Tatum will be soon. Brown is in his second contract. And the people are still calling him young and unexperienced? Really? Then I don't know what is young and unexperienced player, to tell you the truth. But to finish, next year will be key for this Celtics team. Agree or disagree?
I agree, because next year you're finally gonna get the Eastern Conference. As long as Giannis is around, you're finally gonna get the Eastern Conference featuring the team in Brooklyn that has the duo that technically you all wanted here in Boston if you basically weren't somebody who was obsessed with Tatum and Brown. As simple as that. You're going to get to see potentially what you could have had here in Boston if you would have been willing to forget about the young guys to basically bring in the veterans. And so next year you'll be able to find out which path was quicker to an NBA championship. Going with Kyrie and veterans or going with the young players in this situation. So next year will be much more competitive. Basically, Igor, next year this Eastern Conference is going to look as close as it's ever been to the Western Conference in this case. Question is, are you going to be in the top 4? Next year we could potentially see this Celtics team out of the top 4 and in the lower top in the lower 4 when it comes to the playoffs.
Yeah. Number 5. The Celtics, if they want success, I'm strongly advising the Celtics. I'm strongly advising to boost their bench and to bring the centers, not from the draft, if they really want to compete the next year. Okay. And the last thing to discuss, we don't want this to be longer. We can discuss the whole night, of course, with you. By the way, the matchup is set. Indiana will play the Heat, and from what I'm seeing, Daniel, Pacers defeated the Rockets 108-104. That means that the Celtics will play Philadelphia 76ers, which is the best case scenario for us because, like we mentioned, the Sixers are banged. I don't want to face Miami and Indiana in the first round right now, and I think that this is the good thing that this kind of Celtics will face this kind of Sixers. Sixers are banged up. The other day they had like only 9 players in the protocol for the game, so the Sixers are ideal opponent for the first round, and we are expecting Celtics in maximum 5 in that matchup. Now, the last thing that I wanted to say, that I want to ask you, Robert Williams. You watched Robert Williams the other day. He had career night. I don't know what opponent it was. Like 18 points, 6 rebounds, couple of blocks, the good defense. Also, he's shooting in limited 45 minutes, 18 of 21 from the field. He improved free throws. We know that he can be the defensive anchor, and he needs to work on his jumper. He cannot be only pick and roll center, but other than that, Daniel, if we do not bring another center, I'm going to say and repeat that Robert Williams, in my opinion, is starting material, and Daniel Theis is not a starter. Okay, somebody will say that Theis improved, Theis is great, Theis is have value, absolutely. But all I'm saying is that Theis will not get you a title. He's not the starter at the championship team. And I don't know if Williams is a starter in the championship team, but I know that Williams, he has higher upside than Daniel Theis. I want your thoughts about our first round opponents, the Sixers, to underline again for the end, and I want opinion about Robert Williams' good playing.
Obviously, we'll be discussing the matchup in further detail Saturday. But This matchup, it's gonna be interesting, Igor. Again, you got a banged up 76ers squad with no Ben Simmons from the looks of it. As it seems like pretty much he's gonna be done. He's done for the season.
Yep.
Which means everything for them is gonna be coming from Embiid in this case. It's a situation where the 76ers have, despite the fact that they haven't done great in these 8 games pretty much from the restart, and of course they don't have Simmons, they're gonna have more confidence, Igor, going into the series than we do. I think, Igor, we'll be able. I don't know if I actually have the audio, so I don't think we'll be able to play it Saturday. But after the game yesterday against the win yesterday against Memphis, the discussion with Kyle Draper, Brian Scalabrine, and Kendrick Perkins, it came up in regards to the playoff situation. And Brian Scalabrine went the route of saying he felt the 76ers were losing these games on purpose so that they can force themselves to face the Celtics.
This is interesting thought. But again, I understand that, but this is only if they have the full squad. Without Simmons, they are first round exit team. This is period.
Well, that's the thing, Igor. Remember, they beat us 3 out of 4 times, and they weren't healthy in nearly all those games.
Right.
That's one thing that I say. Why I say they're gonna have all the confidence. Unlike the Milwaukee Bucks and the Toronto Raptors, who you kept up with, and basically, you know, the matchups you were healthy in this case, the 76ers have proven they don't have to have all their weapons to beat you. So Simmons being out, you know, is a critical loss, and of course, in a situation like this where it's now best 4 out of 7, and so you're playing them every other night and can make adjustments rather than playing tonight and then playing 4 months later, it changes a bit. But the 76ers have already beaten you this season without Simmons, so they already know what to expect in this.
And listen, right now, the player who will replace Simmons is Al Horford. And I know that Celtics fans, majority of them, they will say Horford sucks, but he doesn't suck. Playoff Horford is scary Horford, you know, something like Scary Terry. So yeah, I'm expecting difficult matchups if Embiid is there, but still the Celtics will be favorites, and potential too long awaited second round series would be Toronto, Boston, and Miami, Milwaukee. So please keep on. And Western with the Pacers win, Eastern Conference playoff seats are complete or set. Milwaukee against Orlando, Miami, Indiana, Boston, Philadelphia, and Toronto, Brooklyn. Please go on.
Yeah, so like I said, you know, Boston, in terms of, you know, who will be the favorites, will be the ones that get the edge, because, again, they'll be healthy while Philadelphia isn't. They're the higher seed and all of that. And, of course, you know, you got the coaching advantage in this case, as Brad Stevens is viewed as a better coach over Brett Brown. But, like I said, you do have that fact that Boston was only able to beat these guys one time this season, and that was the final time we played them in this case before the COVID-19 outbreak, you know. So I hope one thing people can remember, and I think you will agree with me with this, Igor. You and me said prior to the, you know, season starting.
I have one news, Daniel. Nate McMillan says that TJ Warren is injured, and TJ Warren's foot injury is the same type as Sabonis, plantar fasciitis, or whatever. So TJ Warren is injured, and Domantas Sabonis is injured. Pacers struggling with injuries, similar like the Sixers. Please go on.
Oh, damn. Pretty much that's like a guarantee that Miami's going to win that series now. But,
yep.
Like I said, it's a situation where you and me gotta remind fans. You and me said earlier this season, this Boston team can knock off anybody in the Eastern Conference except for Milwaukee and Philadelphia. That was our opinion, because we felt the fact that you didn't have the size needed to stop Embiid and Giannis would be the top reason why you would lose. And, of course, the fact that those two teams had the two biggest stars in the Eastern Conference, now that Kawhi Leonard was gone with the Western Conference. You know, Embiid, Giannis. After those two, the next big star would be Jimmy Butler, obviously, because we're not including the stars in Brooklyn, because, of course, they're not playing this season. So, those were the top two reasons. Well, ladies and gentlemen, technically, now we're looking at a situation where you're playing Philly, but Philly isn't even 100% healthy. You are, they ain't. So, technically, you and me, Igor, now can pretty much say this Celtics team should win that series. That's the truth. You should be winning this series. Now you and me have to go the opposite direction. We had Philly winning the series if both teams were healthy. But now that we know that Philadelphia isn't going to be healthy and Boston is, Boston has to be the one that wins this series. Which means, ladies and gentlemen, if our guys fall short, whether it be in this round or even round 2, because you and me said again, they can knock off anyone else except a healthy Philly and a healthy Milwaukee. Well, Toronto's not Milwaukee. Toronto's not Philly. Brooklyn is not Milwaukee. Brooklyn is not Philly. So if you can beat up and knock off the banged up Philadelphia 76ers team, well then, Igor, you should be getting past the Toronto Raptors, which means we should be seeing you in the Eastern Conference this year against the Milwaukee Bucks. And after that performance we saw against the Bucks in that first game, we should be seeing one hell of a series at that point in this case.
I'm seeing right now, Daniel, that the Celtics writers, they are announcing the Celtics as kind of, they expect the Celtics to go to the NBA Finals. Great. So let's hope that they are correct. But one note, if that doesn't happen, if the Celtics lose from Toronto or Milwaukee Bucks, I really want those writers that created hype the whole year to soak it up and to say that they are morons. Or at least to apologize and to say that they were not right. They were not right. Like you and I. Do you think that they will do it? Absolutely not. They will say, well, we lost, but then mention officiating, aliens, whatever. So the Celtics should be in the Eastern Conference Finals, and since the Celtics media are saying that they are not now the favorites to be in the NBA Finals, Danny, maybe you and I should reconsider our judgment. We will, of course, stay this way. We expect Eastern Conference Finals at least, like measurement of success. But be sure, ladies and gentlemen, that the Celtics media, they expect NBA Finals. And I expect everybody from them that hyped this Celtics team the whole year to apologize if this team fails, and not to make excuses, right?
Well, that's exactly what we've been saying all season, whether it's in the group, here on the chats, or in the radio shows. Technically, Igor, all you and me said was get to the Eastern Conference Finals, and we would be satisfied. We weren't saying get to the NBA Finals. We weren't saying win the championship. We said
because objective. We're objective ones. We're not crazy.
Yeah, we were just saying prove that this decision of getting rid of all the veterans was better than basically keeping them. And the only way to do that was to immediately go further than you did last season. Last season you had veterans and you made it only to round 2. Why?
Right.
Because the young guys you got today in this season, except for the new guys, of course, like Kemba, for example, but the guys who are your star players today in this season didn't want to cooperate and work with the veterans you had. Well, you sent the veterans to the packing to keep the young guys. So we said, just get to round 3. Get to round 3 and show us we're headed in the right direction. Don't be losing in round 1, because we know for a damn fact the veterans probably would have done a better job in a weakened Eastern Conference this season if they would have been able to stay together. Well, now we know, Igor. You and me said a weakened Eastern Conference? Well, look what we're going to be dealing with. Your path is now clear. You have a banged up Philadelphia 76ers squad. Then the Toronto Raptors, obviously no Kawhi Leonard, unlike last season. So the team is still good, but they aren't as dominant as they were last season. And then obviously the Milwaukee Bucks will be waiting for you in round 3. And that's if, Igor, if there's not a surprise upset by Jimmy Butler and the Miami Heat, because we all know that team, even though I doubt it, could end up, making a surprise out of nowhere. But Eastern Conference, ladies and gentlemen, Eastern Conference Finals is all we said. Get to the Eastern Conference Finals and prove to us that we're headed in the right direction. Well, now we know, Igor, there's no excuse. No excuse not to get there.
Losing from Toronto a second round is not success, to underline. So everybody that says that losing from Toronto in second round is successful season, they are just not right. They are not objective and they're biased. Right?
Yeah, exactly. So like I said, we'll see you all basically during the playoffs, and once the season does end, whether it's a first round exit, second round exit, conference final exit, NBA finals exit, or NBA finals win. We'll see you when it all ends, and at that point, we'll see which side turned out to be telling the truth and knowing their facts, and we'll see if the opposite side was willing to actually be big men and big women and apologize to the winning side. Obviously, Igor, you and me already made it public in the group, in the video chats, and in the radio show that if this team can basically make it far enough, we would have to admit the right decision was made. And we would have to have no choice but to accept all the crap that's going to come our way from these people who were basically on the bandwagon. But like I said, ladies and gentlemen, now that we know Philadelphia is not going to be healthy, so you're not facing a healthy Philly squad, beating Philadelphia does not qualify as you proving you can beat them. Basically, you just stepped over the remains of a broken 76er squad rather than beating them at full strength. You damn sure wouldn't let the 76ers fans gloat if they beat you and your best players are all out.
I could not imagine that scenario. This will be disaster.
Exactly. So I'm just simply saying, Igor, you and me, if the Celtics win round one against Philly, we better not have anybody coming over and telling us, oh, you see, we beat Philadelphia, what do you have to say now? Because you and me will be basically telling them, for one, we said conference finals, and two, we said Philadelphia would beat you if both teams were healthy. You're healthy. Is Philadelphia? No. So, trust me, you shouldn't be trying to say anything to us when you know you just beat a weakened Philadelphia squad after you only managed to beat them once during the regular season. So Milwaukee will be the one that basically comes up to play. So you and me, Igor, it's like this. If they make it to the Eastern Conference Finals, you and me will have to accept the fact that, okay, you people were right when it came to the fact that the Celtics made the right decision for this season by getting rid of the veterans and going with the young guys. But if they lose in the Eastern Conference Finals, so you get there but you lose, you and me will also be able to say, you guys were right when it came to sticking with these young kids, but me and Igor were also right when it came to saying, when push came to shove, your young guys were not going to be able to beat the team with the big name superstar because the league is not going to allow it. So, Igor, you and me basically, each side will have a reason to gloat. They'll gloat because of the fact that they made it to round 3. You and me will gloat when we say we made it, but we still lost to the same team that we told you we wouldn't be able to beat for the same reasons. So, enjoy the playoffs, ladies and gentlemen. They start next week. We'll speak to you all Saturday with the NBA playoff schedule for all these series. Of course, we'll know the Western Conference schedule as well. I'm interested to see, Igor, what's going to happen with that first round matchup for the Lakers. I don't think LeBron and them are going to want to deal with Damian Lillard and the Blazers with the way Lillard is playing right now. But it's going to be one hell of a ride. And again, ladies and gentlemen, the moment has come for me and Igor, the people who are on our side, and the Celtics fans who are on the opposite side of the border. One side is going to be victorious. The opposite side is going to either have to admit they were wrong and show that they got respect for their fellow Celtic fans and admit it, or basically show that they pretty much can accept defeat and walk away and basically say nothing. As simple as that.
That's all. Have a good evening, or have a good day whenever you're watching us. We love you all, and we will talk with you on blogtalkradio.com, Saturday 6 p.m. Eastern, on the show 264th playoff preview. Boston will face Philadelphia 76ers in the first round of the playoffs of the Walt Disney Tour 2020 in Orlando. Igor and Daniel are wishing you good night. Daniel?
Yep, so join us Saturday night, 6 p.m. Eastern Time on Blog Talk Radio.